Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off this morning. Thank you very much for starting your day with us. And it's a busy one. We're going to begin our show with a new chapter in President Trump's unfolding trade war. Overnight, the president's latest package of U.S. tariffs targeting dozens of countries went into effect. Among those countries hardest hit is China. Get this, it now faces a massive 104% levy. The move is threatening to upend the global economy and raise the price you pay for everyday goods. It's also prompted many economists to raise the odds of a recession. Now, the tariffs continue to send shockwaves throughout global financial markets. This morning, here's where we're at. Asian markets closed in the red, while European markets are currently trading sharply lower. We've got a team standing by to talk about all this and more. We're going to start things off with that global reaction to these tariffs, specifically in China, with NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer, who joins us from Beijing. Janice, good morning.
China is showing no sign of backing down from an all-out trade war, and neither is President Trump. At midnight, U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods soared to 104%. That's on everything from clothes and shoes to toys and tech. Duties on other countries are also kicking in, 49% on Cambodia, 46% for Vietnam. These are key hubs for American companies like Lululemon, Nike, and Apple. Japan and South Korea are sending trade teams to the White House to seek some tariff relief. But no country is more targeted than China, long considered the world's factory, last year sending over $400 billion in goods to the U.S. China has retaliated with rounds of tariffs and restrictions of their own, likening the Trump administration's global blitz to blackmail. President Trump overnight also tripled duties to 90% on small packages under the de minimis rule, that duty-free loophole that helped the rise of retailers Shein and Temu. So those cheap goods from China are going to cost U.S. consumers more. And these are the sort of things used in every American home. Target deals with 2,500 factories here. 80% of all toys in the U.S. are made in China. Now, the Commerce Ministry here today said the country has a firm will and abundant means to fight a trade war with the U.S., and they're hinting at more countermeasures. There's also a lot of anger over comments that Vice President J.D. Vance made in a Fox News interview about Americans borrowing money from, quote, Chinese peasants. The U.S.-China rift is now a sensitive issue on Chinese social media. Censors are encouraging discussions around comments like America is fighting a trade war while begging for eggs, but hashtags describing heavy tariffs or using 104% are now censored.
All right, Janice, thank you so much. Let's now bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell and our business and data correspondent Brian Chung, who's been all over this. Good morning to both of you. Kelly, I will start with you. How's the president defending these new tariffs, especially, of course, particularly the one on China, this massive 104% duty on any import from that country? What are we hearing from him?
Well, good morning, Savannah. The president is using the force of his personality and his office to go all in on a policy that broadly he's talked about for decades, and in his time in office has been making some adjustments, but now the full force of what he has described, at least for this moment, is in effect today. So the president is saying that what he is doing with tariffs will do several things, that it will bring money into the U.S. Treasury, which can be used for important things that he sees that could include extending tax cuts. He's talked about trying to bring manufacturing back into the United States. That's a much longer term play. And he talks about wanting to have a more level playing field with nations around the globe. A lot of anger from the president at what he frequently says is the rest of the world harming the U.S., being unfair to the U.S. The president has been defending his policies. Here's part of what he had to say.
We have a lot of countries coming in. They want to make deals. We've had talks with many countries, over 70. They all want to come in. Our problem is can't see that many that fast. But we don't have to because, as you know, the tariffs are on and the money is pouring in at a level that we've never seen before.
So one of the challenges in what the president is saying there is that he acknowledges that you can't do bilateral negotiations with dozens of countries all at the same time if you're going to have high-level representatives from the administration carrying that out. We already know that the Treasury Secretary says publicly that he's engaging with Japan. The president's also said while he believes in flexibility, he views these tariffs as permanent. So it becomes harder to see where does this actually land, what sort of carve-outs or side deals could take place while the markets are roiling and while the global economy is trying to understand what this will mean, how it will affect them. And there are frayed relationships with U.S. allies and adversaries on all of this.
Brian, let's bring you in here. You know, we've been asking this question a lot. When are consumers going to feel this? What is it going to feel like? Will they bear the brunt of this cost? Let's talk about it today, now that this has gone into effect, and specifically, just you think about the sheer volume in number and also in type of item that comes from China. 104%. What's that mean for the consumer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that now that these tariffs are in effect and these additional levies are official, anything that comes in and gets offloaded from a boat, let's say at the Port of Los Angeles, well, that's now subject to that 104% levy if it's coming from China. It wasn't the case necessarily, 12 hours ago. Now,
right.
I want to point out that that's the big distinction here. If it gets offloaded today, that's when it's subject to the tariff. So it doesn't have to be manufactured today. Basically, beginning as of a few hours ago, companies can say, all right, you know what? I now have to pay this added levy. I'm going to pass that cost on to consumers. Now, how long it gets passed on to consumers is going to be different by industry. The automotive industry, for example, where the auto tariffs actually took effect late last week, we were hearing from some dealers that it might not be until a few weeks from now that they would have to pass on those costs to customers. The reason why? Because they already have cars on their lot, and the cars that they brought in, they paid for prior to the tariffs. So they don't necessarily feel that pressure to add the thousands of dollars in estimated costs to those that are trying to buy a new truck or to buy a new car. But they said it's a matter of weeks, not necessarily months, which means that potentially, Savannah, 2 to 3 weeks from now, those same trucks, those same cars on the lot, which may have been imported since the fact, that could get more expensive. But again, when it comes to electronics, when it comes to things like clothing, those are all things that are likely to get more expensive because of the Chinese tariffs. If you see a good deal now, maybe not the worst thing to buy.
Absolutely. Brian, also, what are you watching as we're waiting for the market to open today? Yesterday, bumpy ride once again. What do we think?
Yeah, well, looking at market futures right now, it seems like things are just kind of bumping around. It's basically about flat, which tells us that we don't really know which way this market could open up once it opens up at 9:30 Eastern time. But I want to point out that yesterday, it looked like market futures were going to take everything higher. It was deeply green on everything. It was a color we had not seen in a number of days. S&P 500 was something up like over 3%, and then we ended the day down substantially. So the volatility in the market is very much there, and we'll have to see what happens.
Brian, Sean, Kelly O'Donnell, thank you both very much. Well, one of the stated goals, right, of the Trump administration's trade war here, it's to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. But how possible is that on a large scale? NBC's Yasmin Vasugian takes a closer look.
As the president digs in on tariffs,
Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country.
ridicule pouring in on social media, with memes going viral. We don't know where exactly they're coming from, but this one, an AI-generated video crudely showing Americans doing factory labor, raising the question, is a manufacturing renaissance in the United States possible? And would it provide jobs that people here want?
If we mean sending us back to that world in which manufacturing was a third of U.S. employment, there's just no way that would happen.
Could we reindustrialize the economy and add millions of working class jobs? Absolutely.
Clearly plenty of disagreement. So what would it take? Let's rewind to the 1970s. Back then, nearly 20 million people in the United States made their livings from manufacturing, accounting for more than a fifth of total employment. The U.S. was a leading producer of everything from cars to planes to steel.
So it was a really big deal for the U.S. economy. And what made it an especially big deal is that those jobs paid really good wages, and that allowed workers with just a high school degree or not even a high school degree to attain a middle-class lifestyle.
But then globalization, starting in the 80s, NAFTA in the 90s, China joining the World Trade Organization at the turn of the century. It all shocked the system. Cheaper labor abroad meant lower prices and closed factories here.
What we call the China trade shock.
Now manufacturing employs only about 8% of the nation's workers. And to give you a sense of the wage gap, on average, manufacturing jobs make $35 an hour now. In Vietnam, for example, that rate is about $1.20. Many economists who study these massive trends are skeptical about the ability of tariffs to turn back time.
We want to think about how to create good jobs for the workers of the future. We should be having a substantial focus on how we do that in the service sectors that are vibrant now and that are likely to emerge in the coming years.
But many in the domestic manufacturing industry believe in what President Trump is doing.
We are now, I would argue, in a bipartisan era that tariffs are an important tool in the toolbox for industrial strategy and to reshore domestic production.
He acknowledges we won't be able to make things as cheaply as they do in China or many other countries, but thinks the job creation is worth it. However, many of the manufacturing jobs of old were dangerous, dirty, and difficult. Across the economy, 38 workers a day died in the U.S. in 1970. Now the number is less than half that. There's also concern about the potential environmental impact.
Even if we're able to bring more manufacturing back to the states, our environmental laws are there for a reason, and it's to prevent what we saw at the turn of the 20th century with cities that were cloaked in smog, with rivers that caught on fire, with toxics leaking into our water supplies.
Other things that are different now. From America's post-war industrial age, union membership was more than a third of the workforce. Now it's about a tenth, and tax rates on the wealthy were above 70% in 1980, and now are about half that.
We are shedding excess labor in the federal government.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent telling Tucker Carlson that government employees losing their jobs now could work in factories.
That will give us the labor that we need for the new manufacturing.
Which brings us back to the memes. Will office workers really want to hit the factory floor? The industry saying bringing those jobs back will spur innovation and automation, leading to better manufacturing jobs.
If you talk to any person that runs a factory, that's a CEO of a company that produces in the U.S., they will tell you that innovation happens closest to the factory floor or on the factory floor. Are we going to have, new technologies making the processes better, more streamlined? Absolutely.
That's if the factories are built, the jobs are open, and the pay is good enough.
Yasmin Vasugian, NBC News.
Well, the Supreme Court has stepped in and paused a federal judge's order that about 16,000 federal probationary employees, they're from at least 6 agencies, they were laid off by the Trump administration, be reinstated by their agencies. That's been paused. NBC News Now legal analyst Angela Sanadella joins us for more on this. Angela, good morning. So the court's ruling, it's based solely on claims brought by some nonprofit groups in a California case, but overall, what does this decision mean for these employees? I mean, our viewers probably know we've been talking about it so much. Feels like every day there are just like dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of federal employees who have been cut because of the Department of Government Efficiency. What does this ruling mean?
Okay, so here's the thing. When there is a big action or issue like this that affects people all across the country, it's not uncommon for there to be different lawsuits brought in different jurisdictions from different parties. So what happened here is that in California, 2 different groups, one, unions of these employees, and then 2, nonprofits who felt that they were being harmed as a result of this action, brought this lawsuit. The Supreme Court's order exclusively is limited to whether or not those nonprofits who brought the lawsuit have standing to sue. Now, it might seem like standing is just this random technicality, but it's really important, right? It is what limits whether or not you or me can be sued by anyone in this country, whether or not they were affected by us, right? So what the Supreme Court said here is that these nonprofits in particular were not harmed enough by the government's actions. And so as a result, they reversed the temporary restraining order, which means that the ruling that said these individuals had to be reinstated no longer applies. But that said, as I originally said, there are lawsuits across the country that doesn't necessarily impact them entirely because there's other litigation moving.
In fact, there's one I wanted to ask you about in Maryland. Tell us about this one, specifically the fact that that required employees to continue to be paid, to be unpaid administrative leave.
Yeah, so this ruling in Maryland is a result of a lawsuit that was brought by actual employees. So there's not necessarily an issue of standing. And the judge there ruled that these individuals who were affected had to be reinstated so long as they live in 19 states. So there's likely overlap between the individuals who would have been affected by the California order and then also if you lived in those 19 states that were also affected by the Maryland order. So those individuals will have their job back temporarily with paid leave until the litigation really resolves. Because this is all just about temporary action as well.
Right.
There's been no rulings with finality about whether or not these claims are legal or are going to be approved ultimately by the Supreme Court.
It's really just still a mess and impacting literally thousands of people. Okay, I also want to ask you, while we've got you, about the Associated Press, the AP. So they had been barred from covering White House events. This is because they had not changed their style to, say, the Gulf of America. We all know what happened there. Yesterday, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to lift that ban. What should we know about this ruling? And also, do we think the Trump administration will abide by it? Do they have to?
They do have to abide by it, but they can also certainly appeal it, right, which you expect. But what the judge ruled here is that this was a constitutional violation of the First Amendment. Why? Because of two things. One, that the AP was obviously getting limited access. Two, because, as you said, it's a direct result of their editorial decision. So that meant it was viewpoint discrimination, which then qualifies as a violation of the First Amendment. And look, obviously administrations have always given more or less access based on a number of reasons. So they're not saying that administrations have to give total access to everybody, but just if it is directly linked to an editorial decision, as seems to have been the case here, that is unconstitutional.
All right, there you go. Angela Senadella covering a lot for us. Thank you so much. Good to have you. Well, the calendar, it may say April, but it is expected to be a cold winter-like day in some parts of the U.S., like this one. And many people also are still contending with the impact of severe weather. Dawson Springs, that's in western Kentucky. It's continuing to deal with leftover floodwaters following strong storms there. Look at these videos on your screen. Over in Arkansas, crews are cleaning up debris, repairing power lines, and assessing the damage after a round of storms in that area. No one was seriously injured, but several homes were damaged by fallen trees. We are going to keep following all this and get a closer look at the effects of these days' worth of severe storms, the return of some cold temperatures. What's on tap for today with your Morning News Now weather? Angie Lastman's here. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. We got it all covered for you, and there's multiple things that we've got to talk about, and some of them are overlapping across the same region. So let's start with, of course, all that heavy rain that we dealt with last week and into the weekend, still leaving us with these river flood warnings up across a good chunk of the country, specifically the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, and stretching down to the Mississippi Valley. That's where some of these rivers are still dealing with the cresting happening likely today. But you'll notice that these moderate and even major flood stages could potentially in some of these spots last until Saturday. So we'll see this ongoing flooding across this region. That is not likely to let up here in the short term, but we will see some improvements beyond this upcoming weekend. We've also got a whole lot of freeze alerts up. Spring is nowhere to be found for the eastern third of the country. We've got 56 million people under freeze warnings, frost advisories. It includes Baltimore, Raleigh, Lexington, Birmingham, Huntsville, and even New York City. And these temperatures are feeling quite brisk. We've got some feels like temperatures into the 20s for Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, waking up to 32 degrees for your actual temperature in Cincinnati. And even as far south as Asheville and Raleigh, our temperatures, the actual ones, are into the 30s. Atlanta feeling like 41 degrees at this point. This is what it's going to look like for the morning hours, and we get a little bit of an improvement as we head into the afternoon hours. It'll still remain unseasonably cold for this section of the country. Big difference, though, if you look west. We've got 70s, 80s, and even 90s across this region. We'll see the potential for some record highs possibly here as we get into tomorrow across parts of the Southwest. Phoenix is going to be one of those spots that hits nearly 100 degrees for their actual temperature. And then this kind of moderates out here as we get into the weekend, and we'll see some spring highs getting back into the picture for our friends across the east. Chicago is one of those spots. Mid-60s by Sunday. We've got 80s for Kansas City by Sunday. We go from the low 50s on Friday and Saturday in Pittsburgh to the low 60s by the time we wrap up the weekend. As far as rain and snow is concerned, we've got a couple of these little systems that are going to dive across parts of the Midwest. This does bring a little bit of rain and a little bit of snow to the lower Great Lakes today. And then as we get into tomorrow, we could see some of these stronger storms ramp up, and they do include areas across the country that have been dealing, of course, last week with the severe weather and the ongoing flooding. Memphis is one of those locations that's in that risk for some of these stronger storms, so we'll watch for that for tomorrow. And otherwise, a bit of that cold rain and that wet snow kind of working across parts of New England. By the time Friday rolls around, much of this moisture works up into the Northeast. This will be something that we see here as this system intensifies across this region. Savannah, back over to you.
A lot to watch for and good safety information for folks there. Thanks, Angie.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.